For 2 weeks, the jury looked at the evidence, listened to the witnesses, and it took about 10.5 hours to come to that verdict. Benjamin Taylor joining us live now. He's a local attorney. He's been following the case since the very beginning. And first off, we want to ask, what do you think ultimately led to the jury coming back here? Because it was a fairly quick, short amount of time, 10.5 hours. A lot of people didn't expect a verdict this early and overwhelmingly for the prosecution. What was the difference here?
I mean, ultimately, you had the video, which the world has seen. You had expert witnesses who will testify that George Floyd died because of lack of oxygen. And you had the own police chief and other use of force experts who testified. So the evidence was overwhelming. And I wasn't surprised that the verdict came back so quickly.
Certainly the defense attempted to poke holes in the story and attempted to suggest that there may have been other factors involved here. The evidence just not strong enough there, or just it wasn't there at all? The video was so compelling. You watched this happen.
The defense attorney had a tough case. I mean, you had this on video. So anytime you go into the courtroom, the jurors love video. Plus the witnesses that were eyewitnesses testified and told Derek Chauvin to get the knee off of George Floyd's neck. So this evidence was just so overwhelming. That's why they convicted him of all 3 counts, because there was no other reason not to convict him.
So what happens next? The judge certainly setting sentencing for about 8 weeks away. We know that there's going to be a pre-sentence investigation and that sort of thing. And we know the prosecution is expected to ask for more than your traditional first offender would get in a case like this. What do you expect to happen next?
I mean, the judge can sentence Derek Chauvin up to the maximum of 40 years. However, if Derek Chauvin doesn't have any criminal history, he probably won't get 40 years. So the pre-sentence report will investigate his background history. Of course, the prosecutor is going to ask for an aggravated sentence, meaning a very high sentence. And the defense attorney will have the opportunity to write a memo and ask for a lower amount of sentence. But ultimately, the judge will decide. And then after the sentencing, the defense attorney has the ultimate right to appeal, and the Court of Appeals will decide whether or not to grant Derek Chauvin a new trial or to affirm the verdict of the jury, meaning to have the verdict stay.
Yeah, so we may not have seen the last of this, certainly. A lot of people will be watching that sentencing too, just to see if there is a sense of justice. Benjamin Taylor, local attorney, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.